Hi, George Durkee, and this is a quick video for the ArcGIS Online class for Columbia College. Now, to add a little realism to our lives, a fire just broke out in Briceburg in Mariposa County, just south of us. And so I want to show you how to do a quick uh, fire map showing the perimeter and just set up a quick web map, and you can do this and it'll count as the web map due at the end of the week. So in it here we'll create a folder in contents and call it Briceburg Fire or something like that. Then we'll create a web map. We'll bring in server-based data such as road closures, and finally we'll create a polygon feature class, and with that we'll draw the fire perimeter from a CAL FIRE image I just came across. Generally by day 2 or 3, CAL FIRE and federal agencies will post their fire perimeters, and they're automatically updated, but often in the first day or two that doesn't happen. So here in Tuolumne County, for instance, we've just drawn it in using paper maps, and then, like I say, by the second or third day, it starts getting automatically updated when CAL FIRE or the responsible agency starts posting it online. So here, I'll just go to your table of contents, in this case obviously mine. We'll create a new folder, and we'll call it Briceburg Fire 2019. And this is kind of important. Organizing your data is pretty critical to keeping track of things. You know, if you only have one or two files, well, you can easily see what you've got. But when you start getting all sorts of files and all sorts of feature classes in those files, you really need to have a good system to organize your data. So the first thing we'll do is we'll just create a map. And to do that, just go to your nav bar at the top here and go to Map. And it just comes with your default base map. And in this case, we want to zoom into roughly where the fire is, which is, oh, I'm lost here. Oh, there's Mid Pines. It's just at the bottom of the Briceburg grade here. So just as a good practice, let's first save our map, and we'll call it Briceburg Fire 10/7/2019. Tags are to make it easier, so I've already got Briceburg Fire, and let's go with Briceburg Perimeter, and then a summary map of Briceburg Fire 10/7/2019. And we'll save it in folder. It's already set up for us, but there's a drop down here where you can choose the folder, Briceburg Fire 2019. Save map. Next, just so we go in order here, go to Share. And for the moment, let's just share this in amongst Columbia College. You may want it to go to everyone as a public map, but at the moment we won't do that. And you can also share it to subgroups, but at the moment it'll just go to everyone in Columbia College. But if you have a particular map you want to share only within a small group and not to all of our Columbia College program, then you create a working group and invite people to it. And also here is the link to the map. And that link, because we only shared it to Columbia College, the link will only work to those who have an account on our ArcGIS Online account. So let's add some content here. Search add, then search for layers. And we'll go to ArcGIS Online. And let's add, we know that a layer exists, Mariposa County road closures. So let's look that up. And there it is right there. And notice the 92619. So add that. I take that back. They're tinkering with it. So let's add this one instead, the 107, and go with this one. Next, let's add MODIS, satellite MODIS thermal hotspots. And these are satellite imagery which shows hotspots. And again, let's look for the most recent one. This is from Esri live feeds, so that's pretty authoritative, 10.7, so that's updated. So we'll add that. And notice when we added it, you get literally little red spots here, and that's the latest MODIS imagery there. It's always a question whether to add MODIS satellite imagery on your fire maps, because it takes some interpretation, but because we don't have a perimeter right now, it gives us at least an idea of where the fire is. And now let's add the automatically updated fire perimeter. So active fire perimeters. And I have gone ahead, of course, and know specifically what to look for. But a lot of times you just put in active fire perimeters or even fire perimeters, and you come up with a whole bunch of possible choices. Just make sure that it's either national or California. And in this case, it's Cal OES, excuse me, Office of Emergency Services. So that's a good one to have. And let's just stick with that for the moment as sort of a basic. So notice your map here. You've got road closures here with the red symbols. And this closes off the side road going down Canyon here. Oops. I think, haha. Yeah, oh no, it's still there. Sometimes you can set the zoom level, and I'll show you how to do that, so that if you zoom out to a certain point, the symbol won't show up because sometimes they get too big and kind of overwhelm the map, and you don't want them, when you're out at a county or a state level. But as you zoom in, you can set the zoom level so the symbol starts showing. And they haven't set a label here, but there you go. It's still what we want. So next, we're going to create a fire perimeter feature class where we'll draw in the fire perimeter from a image that I just downloaded from a friend. And you can do this in two ways. You can do this from either ArcGIS Desktop or ArcGIS Pro, and then you can upload the shapefile or the geodatabase into your Riceburg Fire folder. And if you do it in Pro, you actually have a better choice of symbology, because the symbology will transfer, as do your labels and label size and font choices. But we can also do this entirely online. We can create a polygon feature class, and actually it sets up pretty good, which means you don't need to use Arc Desktop or Pro. So to do that, go to Create, and you're within your Riceburg Fire folder, and you want to create a feature layer, and you want to build a layer here. Notice you've got other choices here, either from a template, from existing layer, or from a URL, which means you can enter a URL if there's another site that has what you want to create. Anyway, we're going to build a layer, and you get the choice of polygons, lines, points, and points, lines, and polygons, so it's actually kind of cool. Let's do that. We're going to do points, lines, and polygons. I think in this lesson we'll only use the polygons, but I'll show you where you could use points if you wanted to. So we select that, we create, and notice that we have all three layers showing up here. You can also capture GPS receiver information, but we won't do that. And you can set an area. This isn't super critical, but we'll zoom in on Yosemite area, and just generally you can see Yosemite Valley there. It's probably close enough. We'll go with that. And we'll call this Braceburg Fire Data Perimeter. And I'm just going real quick here. And then data from Braceburg Fire. And it's going into the Braceburg Fire folder. So that brings us directly to the feature class folder, where you can set this up. So we'll go first to share, and we'll share it within Columbia College. And then we'll go to data and fields, because we're going to add a field. And in this case, we're only, so for the point layer, we'll just do it for the moment for the polygon layer, so we can go a little more quickly here. We will add a field to the polygon layer, and we're just going to call it label. And the display name will be label. It'll be a string as opposed to an integer or a date. And then the length default is 256 characters, but why don't we just stick to, say, 40 characters, which is a lot. You can enter a default value, but we won't do that. And then we'll add a new field. And I misspelled it, but we'll call it Braceburg. And then for visualization, and this is another fairly cool feature, is that you can set it in ArcGIS. And so when you draw this, it'll be a consistent symbol. So what we'll do here, I'll show you what I mean, is we go to polygon layer, and remember that in the upper left here, you're acting on whatever you set this on. So obviously we're setting it on the polygon, and then you go to change symbol, and we'll keep this, we just need to show the location. Then we go to single symbol and options, and then we go to symbol. And so for the fill, let's just go for a light gray, and for the outline we'll go for red, and let's make it 4 points. This is something you can fool around with. For transparency, we'll leave that as is. Line width, pattern, keep that all, and then OK. And this is what I mean by visible range here. And so the way it's set up right now is the polygon would be visible all the way zoomed out to show the whole country or even the world. So in fact, we want to bring it down, let's say to county level, somewhere in there, a little bit above what we have now. And we may change that later, but for the moment, OK. Done. And something I always forget, remember to save the layer, although when you exit out of this, it'll remind you. And now, back to our map, we'll add that, search for layers, and not ArcGIS Online, but my content. Oh, and get rid of what I put in last time. And there we are, it comes up first. It shows your most recent. And then we'll just add it with a little plus sign here. And there we go. So now we want to actually draw in the fire perimeter. And I've even done this before when I was doing a proof of concept map a couple of years ago, and I just went from a photo of a fire near Moccasin, and just from the Facebook photo you could pretty much tell where the fire was. And in this case though, we actually have the official CAL FIRE map, and it's a little hard to draw in, but I'm going to put this on my other screen, and then I'll show you how to edit and draw it in. So back to, then we go to content, and the only thing you're going to be able to edit here is the one file that you actually own. All these others, you can sometimes change the symbology, but you can't actually edit them. So we'll do Bryce Burr here, and then because that's in there, the edit tool shows up. If I deleted that file, then the edit tool wouldn't even be there. So let's go to edit and click on the, well, I've got it as a new feature. I didn't label that, but and then notice how you get a little pop-up. Click to start drawing, press Control to enable snapping. So Control is if I wanted to go along the road, for instance, or any other feature you have. But I'm just going to draw it in very roughly here. So I'm clicking to start, and I'm going up this little canyon here, which is the current location of the fire. And then it looks like it goes around here, and it's coming down a little bit the other side of the ridge, and then it comes along the road. And you're clicking each time to establish a direction change, and then double click to end. And we'll label it Bryceburg fire, and give it a date because we might expand the perimeter each time. And in this case, it's spilled over on the other side, so we're going to draw both lobes of the fire. And this is a little smaller, but it's essentially the same. It comes up here. It's still staying below the peak here, and looks like it might be coming down the gully here. Double click to end, and the same thing, let's call it Bryceburg Fire. 10/7/2019. And this is useful because a lot of times you want a fire history map to show how it's expanding or something like that. Though again, you hope that in fact the feature services, the server-based maps start coming online in a day or two. And notice how our symbology has a light gray such that you can see under it and see the terrain underneath. And we can even set the transparency to increase that a little bit if you want. Now let's save, because you want to save early and often so you don't mess up and lose everything. Now back to content, and what we're going to do now is show our label. So down here we're on Bryceburg fire data, or Bryce Burr as I put it, and create labels. And right now it's set to creator, so my name's in there, but you want to set it to label. And again, you can set the let's just set it to county before the label shows up. And you can also do a setting called halo. And this is a really useful thing when you have a label on top of several color types underneath. And so when you put a halo in, it gives it a white outline. And you can also vary that. You can make it yellow or whatever color you want. Sometimes a best practice is to make the label the same color as the symbology for your polygon or your point. So we could make this red, red. Let's just see what that comes up. Yeah, it's not bad. Anyway, it shows that it's attached to that feature. Sometimes that doesn't work because the colors might clash with your underlying base map, but let's just go with it for the moment. Let's go up to 16. Up to 16. There we go. Okay, and let's do one more thing here. So far, we've actually done a pretty good job. We've loaded relevant feature classes, and we've drawn in the fire perimeter, and we set that up in about 20 minutes or so. So that's pretty good. Let's do a label for the road closures. Roadblock. Let's see what happens here. And we don't want incident number. Oh, roadblock name. Let's see if this roadblock name, and let's give that a halo. And notice how it overlaps the name of Briceburg on the road or on the town there. So let's move it to over there. So that's pretty good for the moment. And let's go up. Let's bring it into county. There we go. And OK. Save. And there's other feature classes, server base, you can add here. So for instance, you might want California Highway Patrol accidents and road closures and stuff for the whole state. But for our case right now, let's just leave it pretty simple and basic. And so if you want to copy this or just copy the workflow and turn it in as your web map for Friday, that would work. But make sure you add some labels and even a polygon, though that's not required on the initial requirement for this week. But if you want to, you now know how to do it. Okay, let's call that, and I'll save and shut down. And if anyone has any questions, I'll post some more on assignments or announcements and update you guys on anything more I've got. And if you've got any questions, send me a note. Thanks.